Shalom. This week's Torah portion is Vayigash. It's Genesis 44:18 through 47:26. The Haftarah portion is Ezekiel 37, verses 15 through 28. And the New Covenant portion is Luke 6, verses 9 through 16. So we finished with a cliffhanger last week, and it was when the sons were going back to Canaan with the grain, and Benjamin's with them now. And we know that the servant of Joseph had told him, hide my silver cup in the bag of Benjamin. And that's what happened. And so last week we stopped with that, where the servant, Joseph's servant, stopped the brothers and he said, okay, which one of you took the silver cup of my master? And they said, we don't know anything about that. And he said, well, the one who has the silver cup is going to have to go back with us, basically to prison. So that's where we were, and that brings us to this week's portion, Vayigash, and just starting there in verse 18 of chapter 44. So we know that they are wanting to take Benjamin, and who intercedes? Judah. We have seen how this man has changed throughout this whole process, how he has been broken, and now he's been so humbled. And when we look at verse 30, Judah says, now therefore I come to your servant my father, and when I come to your servant my father, meaning when he goes to Yaakov, when he goes to Israel, and the boy Benjamin is not with us, since his life is bound up in the lad's life, when he sees that the lad is not with us, he will die, and thus your servants will bring the gray hair of your servant our father Jacob down to Sheol in sorrow. For your servant became surety for the lad to my father, saying, if I do not bring him back to you, then let me bear the blame before my father forever. Now therefore, please let your servant remain instead of the lad, a slave to my Lord, and let the lad go up with his brothers. For how shall I go up to my father if the lad is not with me? For fear that I see the evil that would overtake my father. Look how Judah has changed. And he's saying, no, don't take Benjamin, take me. Do whatever you want with me, but let Benjamin go free. We get then into chapter 45. And one of the things I had wanted to talk about at the beginning is that when it comes to the Torah portions, Joseph gets 4 Torah portions, more than any other person. And it's amazing because also when we talk about Messiah, he's got 2 names, Mashiach ben Yosef, Messiah son of Joseph, and Mashiach ben David, Messiah son of David. And Mashiach ben Yosef, he's like the suffering servant, the Messiah who comes as a servant. And Mashiach ben David is the Messiah who comes as king. And so this whole portion is so relevant to Israel and to the things that are to come. So in chapter 45 of Genesis, we get into verse 1. So Joseph could not control himself before all those who stood by him, and he cried, make everyone go out from me. So there was no man with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers, and he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard it. And then Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed at his presence. Can you imagine what these brothers felt? All these years they had convinced themselves that he was probably dead by now, and all of a sudden, standing in front of them, the number 2 person underneath Pharaoh, their brother Joseph, and they cannot believe it, because also he doesn't look like a Hebrew anymore. He looks Egyptian, he sounds Egyptian, but then he shows them, I am your brother. And then we look in verse 4 of chapter 45. Joseph said to his brothers, please come closer to me. And they came closer. And he said, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. Now do not be grieved or angry with yourselves because you sold me here, for God sent me before you to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there are still 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant in the earth and to keep you alive by great deliverance. Now, therefore, it was not you who sent me here, but God. Wow, that sounds like another verse I remember from the New Covenant where, really Yeshua said, you didn't take my life from me. I give my life. Yeshua came and he gave his life. And this is exactly what Joseph was saying. It wasn't you, it was God who brought me here. I can't remember what verse. I'm going back to verse 7. God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant in the earth and to keep you alive by great deliverance. Now, therefore, it was not you who sent me here, but God. And he has made me a father to Pharaoh and Lord of all his household and ruler over all the land of Egypt. Hurry and go up to my father and say to him, thus says your son Joseph, God has made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down to me. Do not delay. You shall live in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near me, you and your children and your children's children and your flocks and your herds and all that you have. There I will provide for you, for there are still 5 years of famine to come, and you and your household and all that you have would be impoverished. Behold, your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see, that it is my mouth which is speaking to you. Now you must tell my father of all my splendor in Egypt and all that you have seen, and you must hurry and bring my father down here. Then he fell on his brother Benjamin's neck and wept. And Benjamin wept on his neck. He kissed all of his brothers and wept on them. And afterwards, his brothers talked with him. As we go on in chapter 45 in verse 17, then Pharaoh said to Joseph, say to your brothers, do this, load your beasts and go to the land of Canaan and take your father and your households and come to me, and I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you will eat the fat of the land. Now you are ordered, do this, take wagons from the land of Egypt for your little ones and for your wives, and bring your father and come. Do not concern yourself with your goods, for the best of all the land of Egypt is yours. And I love this verse. In chapter 45, verse 24, it says, Joseph sent his brothers away, and as they departed, he said to them, do not quarrel on the journey. And I have often thought about this verse in relation to all of us. We're on a journey. We are on our way home into God's kingdom. If we know him and we love him and we follow after him, we're just on a journey going home. But what would God say to all of us about this journey? Do not quarrel on the journey. He really wants us to love and to be at peace as much as it is possible on this journey. When we get into chapter 46, it says, Israel set out with all that he had, and he came to Beersheba and offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. God spoke to Israel in visions of the night and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, here I am. And he said, I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you a great nation there. I will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also surely bring you up again. And Joseph will close your eyes. And then when we move down to verse 27, it says, all the persons of the house of Yaakov who came to Egypt were 70. In verse 28, now he sent Judah before him to Joseph. Judah has risen up to become the man of the hour in this story, to point out the way before him to Goshen. And they came into the land of Goshen. Joseph prepared his chariot, and he went up to Goshen to meet his father Israel. As soon as he appeared before him, he fell on his neck and wept on his neck a long time. And then Israel said to Joseph, now let me die, since I have seen your face, that you are still alive. Oh my, what an amazing story. What a love story of this father for his beloved son. And all these years he thinks that he is dead, but really God has been using him to save the whole known world at that time. And he comes back and he gets to see his beloved son before he dies. In chapter 47, Joseph brought his father Yaakov and presented him to Pharaoh, and Yaakov blessed Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Yaakov, how many years have you lived? So Yaakov said to Pharaoh, the years of my sojourning are 130. few and unpleasant have been the years of my life, nor have they attained to the years of my fathers lived during the days of their sojourning. And Yaakov blessed Pharaoh and went out from his presence. And so Joseph settled his father and his brothers and gave them a possession in the land of Egypt, in the best of the land, in the land of Ramesses, as Pharaoh had ordered. Joseph provided his father and his brothers and all his father's household with food according to the little ones. And then still in chapter 47, verse 20, Joseph, because as he had said, there was still to be 5 more years of famine. And year after year, of course, it got harder on everybody in Egypt. And so every year Joseph was taking something from the people, buying, he was selling food to them. And so it got to the point that in verse 20, Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh. For every Egyptian sold his field because the famine was so severe upon them, and thus the land became Pharaoh's. And that basically leads us into next week. I want just to look, because we were looking at the whole crux of this story, which was Joseph revealing himself to his brothers, and the fact that his brothers did not know who he was, but he was bringing salvation, not just to them, but to the whole known world at that time. And if we will look at Zechariah, we see this prophecy which is yet to happen. So in Zechariah chapter 12, in verse 3, it will come about in that day that I will make Jerusalem a heavy stone for all the people. All who lift it will be severely injured, and all the nations of the earth will be gathered against it. God is talking about a day when all the nations of the world will come against Israel. But when we move on and we get to verse 10 of Zechariah 12, we see this beautiful verse. I will pour out on the house of David and on the inhabitants of Yerushalayim the spirit of grace and of supplication, so that they will look on me whom they have pierced, and they will mourn for him as one mourns for an only son, and they will weep bitterly over him, like the bitter weeping over a firstborn. In that day there will be a great mourning in Yerushalayim, like the mourning of Hadrimon in the plain of Megiddo. So we have this almost identical pictures here. We have this day that is still to come when Israel will be left alone. And at that time, you remember when Joseph revealed himself to his brothers, he put everybody out of the room and he was completely alone when he revealed himself to his brothers. And then we see here in Zechariah 12 the same thing. Everybody else is out of the room, and it is just Israel looking at the one who was pierced and realizing who he was and mourning for him. He was the Messiah, the one that was coming to save not just Israel, but the whole world. What a beautiful story. And as we're recording this, we are still in Hanukkah, and I want to bless you and wish you a wonderful week. Shalom.